Hi there, it's me, Audrina Lane, and it's week 22 of me reading my first novel, Where Did Your Heart Go? So that means it's chapter 22. Once again, this is a bit of a long one, so I'm going to split it into two parts. So here we go with part one. And we're back with the diary entries from Saturday the 10th of July 1988. We ended up being the last ones awake as we surfaced in the kitchen at around 10. The smell of bacon was too much for us to resist. I wandered over and sat next to Sarah, and although we couldn't talk, I could see from the twinkle in her eyes that something had gone on between her and Chris. I think James realised too as he clapped Chris on the back and they too exchanged a secret look. All was absolute happiness in my world as I glanced around at my boyfriend, best friend, Chris, Pam and Peter. The only problem was leaving James behind yet again, as I was going home and Chris had offered to drive me back to save James a journey in his car. Although I was disappointed to not be sharing the return drive with him, it did make sense. Luckily Chris had booked the day off work so we didn't have to rush back. "Shall we have a barbecue?" Peter suggested. "That sounds good, Dad," James replied as we all headed into the garden to enjoy the sunshine. Sitting outside on the various chairs, I looked down towards the apple trees and the place we had made love only hours earlier. James saw me looking and gave me his wicked grin, to say without words that he was thinking about exactly the same thing. I blushed as Sarah looked over at me with a quizzical look on her face, and I returned the look with a nod that I would fill her in later when we were alone. As James loaded my bag into the boot of Chris's car, I felt my face fall. Hugging his mum and dad goodbye, they went indoors, and Chris and Sarah jumped in the car, leaving me with the back seat. "Thank you again for a fabulous time," I murmured into James's chest as he held my trembling body close. "No, thank you for making my 21st birthday the best it could possibly have been," he replied, as his finger lifted my chin. The tears rolled down my cheeks as he kissed them away one by one. "Don't cry. I want to only have happy memories of you when we were apart." I sniffed and smiled between the tears. "Sorry, it hurts so much when I have to leave you. I miss you so much. I love you so much," I cried, as I kissed him back with a fierce longing rising up like flames in my chest. "Look at the stars later, baby," he crooned, his hand on my cheek being covered in tears. "And then give me a quick call when you get home so I know that you're safe." When we drew apart, he handed me his hanky. "For the journey home," he said, smiling, but I could detect the pain in his heart as it matched mine. "See you soon," I sniffed. "As soon as I can get away, I'll be down to see you." "I'll write as soon as I get home." "I'll be waiting," he said, as we finally let go of each other and I stared out of the back window of the car. I didn't turn away until he was out of sight. Sarah looked over from the front seat. "You okay?" she asked as her hand reached mine and she gave it a squeeze. "Yes, I guess," I replied, as I wiped my tears for a final time with James's hanky. Breathing in, I realised that it smelt of him, and holding it tight in my hand, I closed my eyes and spent the rest of the journey home replaying all the events of the last week we had spent together. When we reached home, Chris helped to carry my bag to the door. "Shall we meet up tomorrow?" I asked Sarah. "Yeah, I'll come over around 10. "See you then. Thanks for the lift home." And I watched them drive away, jealous that they were still together and James and I were miles apart. After chatting with my parents, I excused myself, and after a quick call to James to say I was home okay and missing him terribly, I went to my room, which had been abandoned for a week. Sitting on the bed, I grabbed my elephant and hugged him tight, wishing with all my heart that it was with James. Then, remembering his words from earlier, I crossed to my window seat and stared out at the moonlit night and the millions of stars that littered the black velvet of the sky. "Good night, James," I breathed silently into the night. Monday the 11th of July 1988. After a sleepless night, I set about tidying my room before Sarah arrived. When she did, we grabbed some cold drinks and settled down outside as it was another warm and sunny day. I was determined to keep my tan topped up ready for James's next visit. "So," Sarah said, "spill the beans, and I mean everything." "Okay, I'll tell you as much as I can, but some of it's personal, and I want to keep it between James and myself." "That's cool, I understand," she replied. "So, did it hurt?" A bit, but it was kind of strange really, especially when he was inside me." I paused and remembered the feeling of complete fullness I'd experienced. "First time was okay, but it just gets better the more that you do it," I said, feeling my face flush at the garden experience. Anyway, the whole time we spent together was fabulous. We went to the beach, swam in the sea, dinner out and room service. You lucky thing, she replied, envy in her eyes. We also went up the Blackpool Tower and then had a ballroom dancing lesson with this elderly couple called Jack and May, who showed us how to waltz. I thought you both looked a bit professional at the end of James's party the other night, she laughed. How about you and Chris that night? He was a gentleman, as I'd never shared a bed with him before Saturday night. And? Oh, nothing much really, we just kissed lots. We didn't make love as we didn't want to rush things. Cool. Isn't it great when you get to sleep and then wake up next to them? Yes, it's the best feeling in the world, Sarah replied, as we both lay back and enjoyed the sunshine. Later on, Sarah had to go as she was going round to Chris's flat for the evening to watch a video. She asked if I wanted to go too, but I declined, knowing that she would much rather spend quality time alone with him than have to share her time with a third wheel. When's your interview for the hospital radio job, she asked. Tomorrow, so I'm going to dust off my records this evening and take them for a spin. Well, if you can get a party jumping like on Saturday night, then you'll have no problem amusing kids stuck in hospital, she replied, giving me a hug. I'll see you Wednesday. For shopping? Yeah, definitely, she replied, as she walked off down the drive on her way to Chris's flat. So I will be back with you shortly for chapter 21 part 2, so don't go anywhere.